Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Apostate Weekly. I'm your host, James.
And I'm Ryan.
And let's roll that intro. All right, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Apostate Weekly with Ryan and I as we delve into the weekly news to give you your injection of the religious tea this week and every week, only here on Apostate Weekly. We got some stories for you today, and some of them are just kind of like messed up. And the stories I got like three things, but only one of them really relates to the Jehovah's Witnesses this week, actually.
Okay. I've got one. It's not really a news story. It's just something about the JWs that I found on Reddit I thought was really interesting because I just recently had spoken about it. So that's what I got.
Well, would you like to kick us off with what you got for us today?
Sure. How about I start off with that? So this Redditor tells us how recently they needed to take blood in order to survive. And unfortunately, because of that, their family is now shunning them. Okay. So it says, I've been PMO for over 2 years now, and I moved out about a year ago. A few weeks ago, I had a procedure fixing a stricture in my left kidney. Long story short, an artery burst shortly after surgery. Oh, that's so scary. You just don't know what can happen, causing me to lose massive amounts of blood internally. My parents were with me during my recovery, and during the moment, I was dipping in and out of consciousness due to the loss of blood. The doctor told me that my only option was to take blood. My mother interrupted the doctor, demanding alternatives, even when the doctor said there were none. It came to the point where I loudly had to say I would accept blood. My mother and father left the hospital and sent me a text while I was recovering in the ICU that said I would have to find my own way home. And they said I could no longer stay with them post-op. I expected they would just stop talking to me, but I was surprised at the absolute lack of hesitation to drop their own son. It just goes to show how twisted this cult is. Yeah.
Yes.
How horrible. Isn't that just so sad? Parents would leave them at the hospital, abandon them.
Without even trying to go and ask them, hey, maybe why did you do this? Maybe you did it because you were scared for your life at the time and there were no other alternatives. But I mean, even still, this person has the right to live no matter what. And for his parents to do that, or her parents, it's just absolutely disgusting that they do that.
It is so cruel. I mean, that's your child, and you'd rather leave the hospital planning a funeral. That's what you would prefer, is to be a martyr. Oh, my child died for Jehovah. And that's why I brought it up, because the other week when when Jonathan and I worked on those clips for the PID department, I just had mentioned that all the children that passed away because they didn't receive blood transfusions are martyred on the cover of their magazines. But meanwhile, Hendricks tells people on the media that they don't bully children, that, they help children who are bullied. That sounds, if you ask me, this sounds like bullying. Just saying.
Well, absolutely, it's bullying. I mean, there's no other way around it, especially when you have hospital liaison committees that are there with the sole purpose to keep you from getting a blood transfusion.
I don't know. I don't get how this organization can see this as godlike, to leave your child in the hospital. You could at least bring them home and care for them after, okay? I mean, I don't agree. I don't think you should kick your child out at all. Like, I think that's ridiculous.
But and that makes it even worse, though, doesn't it? They say, well, when you come home, find your own way home. Like,
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm just utterly.
And while you're recovering in the ICU, find a place to live after you get out of there. Like, What the fuck, people? Like, seriously.
They just went through a serious procedure. You'd have to stay in the hospital for a while after you have a blood transfusion to make sure everything, goes okay, because you can die. I mean, it's not as likely as it used to be, but there is that possibility. And to think like they'd probably prefer that their child passed away. Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. It's
insane.
disgusting.
It's disgusting.
But I mean,
Anyway,
and we've talked about this several times on the show already, but we talked about how my parents almost did that to me when I was born. And that's
right?
when fully indoctrinated with the religion. So it happens. It's the indoctrination, but it's the way that this cult makes people do these things to be martyrs for it is just absolutely disgusting, especially when there's no um precedent set in the Bible for them to actually do this. It's a made up precedent.
Exactly. They're pulling a dietary law and trying to mush it with another law about idolatry. Like they're completely just meshing an idea together. They're performing exegesis just to create a doctrine, that's what I don't understand. Why?
Yeah.
And the only thing I can think of is because these martyrs do help propel that victim mentality of the congregants. Like it's just kind of accepted. Like they're war heroes, right? Like
Yeah.
some people thank every veteran they meet, like, thank you for your service. These people consider themselves soldiers going door to door, and they're like war heroes for Jehovah.
And then remember the Awake magazine in 94 that had all the children on the cover who died because they refused blood? And
That's the
and the
one I showed,
articles
yes.
inside of it of all these kids, children who died because they refused to take blood. And not let alone anybody of age and older that does it as well. But they use the children to plaster it on there to promote their propaganda with. And that is just
Right.
even more disgusting that they did that.
The children have no agency. They're doing what they're told to do. They're going to do what they think is the right thing to do. And if they think the right thing to do for their parents is to die, what
Yeah.
do you expect them to what do we expect children to do? They're not going to really understand what's happening. They're going to think like, oh, they're going to meet Jehovah.
Yeah. And then actually, our friend, oh, come on, brain. She's in our Discord. Dr. Time Waster. Thank you, brain.
Oh,
She did a
good job, brain.
I know. She did a good TikTok video on this issue not too long ago either. So
Mhm.
and she is in the medical field and she understands
Yes.
a lot of these things. And she did a very good video about it. And then I asked her a question on that video and about how blood interacts with your body if it interacts differently when you transfuse it versus when you eat it, and like if you put liquid food in the vein versus blood in the vein, your body's going to handle it completely differently. And she
Mhm.
confirmed that for me as well. And so even with their doctrine of it, their whole thing about it is just so off. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, there's no real claim that they hold. Hey, do I think doing things bloodless could be great, even just for the market? So we can save like the blood transfusions for people who need them immediately. And like in this situation, maybe something similar where the blood loss isn't so bad, but you need blood. Hey, maybe a substitute would be great where you can recover in the hospital. But that's not every situation. That's not
No.
everybody's emergency. That's not everybody's disability. Some people just naturally, the way they're born, have iron deficiency, might need regular blood transfusions. So in some instances, I can see where like going bloodless could be super cool, but I wouldn't end my life on it. That wouldn't be like the clincher that got me. Like, oh, I guess I'm gonna have to die. Like, no, I'm not dying on that hill. Give me
Yeah.
something. Put something in there. Inject me with something, would you? Because I want to survive. Thank you.
Well, speaking of injecting you with something, we're going to inject you with more news. How about that?
That works for me.
Oh, that was a pretty good segue there. So, using our
On that
little
note,
terms and catchphrases here. So, I'm just going to go ahead and go to my only JW story I have. It's more along the lines of some of the stuff that we've covered before, but this is just more confirmation that it continues happening. So, this was on Reddit 3 days ago. This is from a convention in the UK. They're talking about how usually an estimated 7,000 people come to the Echo Arena for the conventions. And, they says it's supposed to be 21 conventions that will be held in 13 host cities over the weekend in the UK. And the newspapers are reporting the figures that the Jehovah's Witness press releases. And what this person is wanting to know is, he's looking at the paper's numbers, but then he's looking at the actual numbers of attendees, and he's seeing a discrepancy here, and how much of a decline there has been in the convention attendance in just the last couple years. And it's just more
it's going
reports of this
down, baby.
coming out. It's going down. I mean, this says this 18K would be a combined figure from 2 weekends for the 2023 attendance at the same convention was 6,000 last weekend, and then this weekend 4,700, and then 6,400. And he says that is a loss of more than 5,000 from the 2 conventions. So
wow,
that is a huge, huge loss. I mean, that's nearly 50%.
It's not looking good for them.
No, not at all.
I think people are realizing it's just a bunch of drab information. They take a topic and then they just beat it to death, peace. And then every talk has peace repeated throughout it several different times. Dude, we get it. We're not stupid. We're not robots. We understand the concept. We can talk about something different now. Thank you.
The only piece that I would get is when I fell asleep during those programs.
I think I nodded off a couple different times, but that was probably more likely at the outside stadium ones where it would be like super hot and you would just feel like you were going to pass out.
Oh, you went to an outside stadium one?
Yes, we had the vet back in the day. We had
God.
the Veterans Stadium, and
Man.
usually the bigger part of it was in the sun. Now, if you like sat back underneath the other like higher seats, then there was a possibility you were in the shade, or if you brought like a tarp, like some people would tarp it out, even though you're not supposed to be saving seats, etc., etc. People would do that. Yeah, but I used to have nightmares of falling down those steps.
See, I never went to an outside stadium, but you probably remember the 4-day ones at least, don't you? Or more.
I don't, I'm not really sure. I know for sure 3. I definitely know 3. I don't know if I remember 4, but that could be because I was, much younger back then. But.
Yeah, I only remember 3 my whole life. And, but, and ours were always indoors. We had a place indoors in St. Petersburg, Florida, we used to go to, and every other one I went to has always been indoors. I've never been to an
We had a smaller indoors one. Like we had a really small indoors one, but I don't remember how many people would come to the vet.
Oh wow,
I feel like it's
4
10
XJW Furious
or something. Oh, you had 4-day? Sorry.
Well, if my dad was here, I don't know if they're here because they haven't commented or nothing, but he would tell us how he used to go to the 8-day conventions. He's really old.
Oh my God, 8-day? Oh,
yeah.
I bet you they were more interesting though, because I bet you they didn't like just talk about one subject over and over and over and over. How you can find peace.
And to give you the latest updates, we are telling you that only you are going to survive Armageddon. Well, we get to watch the slaughter of millions and billions of other people. Hooray!
I'm surprised they didn't sell shovels so that way people could use them for when they needed to bury the dead,
Right.
torches, maybe shovels, all the things that you would need, like a little Home Depot spot, but just for
right.
JWs, like the cleanup stuff that you'd need, like bleach,
And
acid, maybe. I don't.
And sell birds, because weren't the birds going to eat the
They
bodies
could just
too?
they could just eat. They could just eat what's left over. Let them eat first, so that way they can get fed, and then what's
And
the
then,
rest you can
as you're
just put it
sitting
in a vat
there
of acid.
listening to the afternoon session, you get crapped on by a bunch of birds flying around.
Oh, and you know what? This makes a good comment. Ellie makes a really good comment. Take away the PMOs, and there would be even less. How many people are there in those seats hating themselves, hating their life, hating the fact that they have to be spending their weekend, that they probably could either be relaxing or working?
Hey, Patrick. Good morning, buddy.
Yay! It's slaughter. Woo! We get to bury the dead. Oh, look, that's my nephew. They didn't make it. Oopsies.
Yep. Oh, there's my child.
So heartless. Oh, darn. Guess
they
they
just
didn't
died
make
because
it.
they didn't believe it.
Where's those wild dogs at?
I know. The stuff
I don't
that
know
they
who's
believe
sicker,
is
me or
crazy.
the JWs who imagine this stuff.
Well,
Oh,
I think
brother.
I'm going to say you in this instance because you're really relishing
Okay,
it.
yeah. I'm not even going to deny it. Quite frankly, I'm just going to let you roll with that because I agree.
I agree.
If there's anybody that's sick around here, it's this one.
All right.
I get the battle scars to prove it. All right. Do you want me to move on to our next story?
Yes, I do.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's move on to this story. Okay. So this I thought was hilarious. This was just released the other day. Can you believe the good old Popey thinks that some of the Catholics are too caught up in their religious rhetoric? I was kind of shocked. Now, this dude says a lot of stuff, and I'm going to get into that. I do like him. I do. I think he's the best that they've had in a very long time. But what he said, okay, so what this article is purporting is that the Catholic Church has replaced faith with ideology and embracing a backward and reactionary attitude, and that the proper understanding of Catholic doctrine allows for evolution and change over time. So he believes that religion evolves. Religion does evolve. I agree with him.
A no true Scotsman argument on there too. Because
that is a very good point. Because if the Catholics of today aren't like the Catholics of 500 Common Era.
Yeah, we're the true Catholics now because we accept these things.
That really plays. Boy, there's so many little layers to this that you have to peel away to really understand what's happening. So obviously we can see that this world, this country is being torn apart by the, progressives, conservatives. It's really hard to meet in the middle, but particularly regarding issues like abortion, same-sex marriage, and social justice. Those are like really hitting us hard right now that are, taking away our autonomy. And so Francis made these remarks during a private meeting with Portuguese members of the Jesuit order. Now, I don't know why the hell he meets with everybody. He reminds me of Robert Hendricks. He's just the face of the organization, just like Robert Hendricks gets in with all the other religious bigwigs and gets in there and they do their little marketing and crap. But he encouraged a more open mind and evolving approach to doctrine, which I think is great. But my fear, what I was leading into, my fear is what happens when this guy dies? What if the next guy isn't so progressive?
Yeah.
We're teetering right now. Like we are literally teetering on losing our freedoms in this country. And what happens if this dude just passes away and the next guy just pushes it over, that little extra nudge? It could go really bad.
Yes, it could.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially with a leader of a religion like that, you know, the influence he has over so many people, it won't take much.
Yeah. So I love the fact that he's a bit more progressive. I think that's commendable. That's what I love to see. I would love to see more progressive religions. I think that's really what we need. And I support a lot of progressive Christians. I'm friends with progressive Catholics and all kinds of different religious people who still stayed in their religion but just decided to push forward. But in certain instances, like Jehovah's Witnesses, we don't have that ability. There's no such thing as a progressive JW. It doesn't
No, there's
it does
not.
not work. It doesn't work that way. Okay, anyway, so I'm going to remove that because that's the end of that. But there's not that opportunity for JWs to speak out and make changes. I'd love it. Robert Hendricks, if you're watching this, I would love a convention. I would love for us to sit down and have a discussion on ways that you can take your religion to the next level, stop harming people, be just more open-minded, stop the shunning. I'd love that. Let's sit down and do it. Let's make changes that are actually going to help people. People want religion. People are going to stay in religion. As much as I hate it, it's going to happen. What's next? Well, maybe what's next is just making these organizations own up and change their tactics. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see them progress a bit more like the Catholics have, even though I don't think the Catholics are really that commendable. But I do like the way that they're trying to be a bit more progressive and hands off. So,
And also we want them to have accountability for their actions over, you know, both good and bad, you know. And I'm
yeah,
not,
just
you
like they
know,
make us.
yeah, exactly. So, you know, you do bad stuff, you pay for it. You do good stuff, you get rewarded for it. You know, I'm good with both of those scenarios, but it has to go both ways.
Yep.
So, anyways, I'm going to move on to our next story here.
Thanks, Francis.
This is from the Friendly Atheist website here, from good old Hemet Meta. For those of you who don't know him, go check out his YouTube channel, The Friendly Atheist. He's excellent in reporting and keeping up with news on different religions and cults. And this is just one of those off the wall stories. Okay. So in the Appalachians here in Bledsoe, Kentucky, there was a retreat that had to be cut short after a conservative Christian mob invaded the rental space, falsely claiming that the participants were desecrating a local chapel here. And this is a nonprofit group called the Waymakers Collective. And they provide grant money and learning opportunities for artists in the region. They've given away over $1 million to date. And this, as of the writing of this article, they had their second annual gathering. Okay. And, you know, they host all sorts of people. You know, it's not just religious people, it's other people, artists, all sorts of people. Okay. And so organizers said that the chapel at this retreat was decorated with pillows and soothing lights and plants and a painting that included an OM symbol. And they presume it was to facilitate meditation. And here's what the controversy is about here. It says, while the OM wasn't meant to be religious in nature, when some people in the community saw pictures of the painting, they flipped out over the idea that a non-Christian symbol made its way into a supposedly Christian space. Even though this retreat isn't a religious location. Okay.
So what the heck? Who cares?
So the Waymakers organizers said they were told that they had use of the entire campus as part of their rental agreement. The only restriction that they had was regarding the chapel, which involved the pews. They were told not to move them because the floors were recently resurfaced. No big deal there. I see nothing wrong at all, right? That's reasonable. and no reason the painting should have been a problem for anybody. But on Saturday of that weekend, an estimated 8 to 9 people in the community took matters into their own hands, barged into the chapel to make sure that the house of the Lord wasn't being disrespected. Guess what they were doing?
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh,
And there's a picture
are
of
they
it right there.
Buddhists?
I don't know. I think it was just some artist club actually.
Oh, okay.
And so this mob of Christians goes in there and starts taking care of business. I mean, you can imagine what they were doing in there.
Oh yeah, rough house,
And
I bet.
and and what really is just the audacity of it is them going in there and doing this, thinking they have a right to go in and destroy other people's property, mess with their stuff, all in the name of their beliefs. And that's just such crap. And so
Yeah.
what they ended up having to do is post officers outside of the chapel, not to prevent people from going in, but to prevent people from going in and causing mayhem.
People aren't allowed to leave. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Once
It's
you
like
enter.
Hotel California.
Right. You can check out anytime you like,
but you can never leave. But to go up into the mountains. I mean, I've hiked the Appalachian Mountains before. They're beautiful. You get some great scenery and everything. And then to go into a place that's supposed to be a peaceful area to get away from everything, get away from all your problems, and then have these idiots
just
come
look
in
for drama
and make it worse. And I'm glad I made that song run in your head, Mary. Sorry, I cut off your comment.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's a good song.
Yes.
Love that
And you're
song.
right,
It's a
Doc.
classic.
It is religious entitlement. Absolutely.
It truly is. But it's just funny to me that like the church will probably like rent out its floor plan, to make money, to make extra cash. And here comes like the neighborhood, like, oh hell no.
Yeah. And
You're not doing that.
And the thing is, like I said, it's a retreat that anybody can go and rent out the place for. So it doesn't the chapel there does not belong to any one religion at all. So it's not even like it was their religion it belonged to. It was a public place for them to be in.
Oh my goodness. Again, it is entitlement. It's exactly what it is. It's religious entitlement. They just think they're warriors of God and they've got to protect every daggone thing. Every daggone thing they got to protect. I don't know why I put a Southern accent on, but go with it.
Go ahead.
Just go with it, everybody.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyhow, that's all I had this week. Did you have anything else?
I actually have one more story I was going to share with everybody here.
Sweet.
And this is coming out of Emin. I don't know where Emin is. I had to translate the web page because it was in another language.
Different language.
So let me bring it up here. And this was an activist that attached with handcuffs attached to the fence at the head office of Jehovah's Witnesses in Emin.
Ooh, wowsies.
And, saying stop declaration of death of ex-members. So he was peaceful about it, but he was, I guess, on the more forceful, peaceful side, I guess you could say.
Yeah, he was adamant, but he
was adamant. Peaceful. But it wasn't like he was trying to cause harm to anybody. I mean, like I said, he handcuffed himself.
Not being disruptive or anything.
He wasn't hurting anybody else. And like you can't hurt somebody else when you're handcuffed to a fence because you can't like swing at
Right.
nobody. So,
Right. Right.
it's
If anything, he's probably gonna be the one getting hurt.
right, exactly. And, the article here is like, says, the activists are almost all former Jehovah's Witnesses, which of course, yeah, they're going to be. And you think of the traumas and things that witnesses go through. And when we leave the religion, some people go to extremes, and I hate to see that they do. Other people are more calm about how they do their activism. And there's a whole range in between. And
Right.
on this channel, we always push for the peaceful and peaceful solutions, the legislative changes, the policy change solutions. We do not ever advocate for violence or harm or destruction of property in any of our activism or anybody else's activism.
Yeah, I'm I'm just one of those people who thinks like violence isn't the way, but I absolutely know that sometimes violence does push things forward, like when it comes to women's rights and when it comes to like civil rights, we had to get violent. We couldn't sit back and go, "Oh, please, will you give me my rights?" You had to fight for them. So I'm not saying that there's not times for that, but I'm saying in this instance with the Jehovah's Witnesses, with a very meek and mild, people who just aren't really on the up and up, I think that doing it this way, like that man did, like handcuffing yourself, just talking to people, signs, letter writing, on the
Mhm.
news, I think those are the better way to reach and to help people. But the thing is that like your and my goal might be completely different. Maybe my goal is to wake people up who are inside the organization. Maybe my goal is to help people as they leave. And I could say, F that organization, eat ish and die. And that's okay. Like, I'm not here to be anybody's mother and tell you how to do it. I just myself, unless I get cornered, will try to be peaceful. But like step up, you gonna get something. Just saying. Just
Right.
watch yourself. Just watch yourself around me because I do have a little bit of that crazy in me because I've been through some shit. But
And
I'll try not to push it there.
and 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 you also got to be ready if you are one of those activists that are out on the streets and say you're doing cart crashes or Kingdom Hall crashes or whatever, and you're doing it peacefully. Be ready to expect retaliation as well. So you got to
Yeah.
be prepared to protect yourself too. So, I want everybody to be safe out there. I want everybody to like and subscribe. Like Sam said, if you haven't done so already, thank you everybody for joining us
We
today.
appreciate it.
We really do appreciate it. We got some more new
Yeah, we
graphics
shouldn't.
coming to the channel as well. Oh, sorry.
No, 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 no. You're right. We have some really good things that we're working on. I'm trying to teach myself Blender. I'm trying to teach myself DaVinci. We're all trying to move ourselves a little bit forward with our activism so we can kind of pep up our step. I think sometimes we kind of do look like we're just like Jehovah's Witness who kind of rolled out of bed and came on a show, but I think now we're starting to like really show that we are here, we're here to stay.
Yep.
We're now in our second season. So anybody who thought like maybe we wouldn't still be here, we're still rolling, still gaining followers. We've done really good recently. We have had a lot of extra subs, and y'all are awesome because it's you guys who come here in the comments and get the algorithm going. So we really appreciate that.
Yes. Big thank you for however the algorithm hit. We had over 100 new subs in
We
this
don't know
last
what
week.
happened,
We don't know what happened, but thank you all
but we
for
like it.
subscribing. Uh, Last week's show had the most views ever out of all of our shows so far, hitting 3,500 views. So did it, keep it up, everybody. Keep sharing, keep liking, subscribing, comments like you're doing. Thank you so much for getting this out there and helping be part of the conversation and part of our audience in doing this. Because without you guys, we'd just be two idiots on the internet talking to each other.
I'm okay with that. um, just quickly, I know you have to go, but just quickly, Jonathan brings up a good point, and I don't know. I'm thinking I might make a video on this, but I don't want to. Here's the issue. Like, what do you do when you see drama and you feel like you want to comment on the drama, but you don't want to create more drama? Right? Like sometimes I feel like my hands are tied because I feel like I want to draw attention to things that I think are issues, but at the same time, my intention is not to shit on other Jehovah's Witnesses
Yep.
in doing so.
Yes.
And I feel like I've recently seen a Jehovah's Witness make a video that kind of shit on a handful of people. And I'm like, do I just let it go? I don't know what to, like, y'all, I don't know what the right thing to do is. Do you know how many times I just fight in my head about like, well, who am I to say like, hey, maybe we shouldn't think? I don't know, but I didn't appreciate the video and I feel compelled to say something. So I don't know what to do. I'm just going to keep saying I don't know. Anyhow.
Well, and that's one of those situations. It's always a touchy area because
it's like walking on eggshells, you know?
Yeah, and I've never been great at walking on eggshells myself. I always end up crushing them. So, just crush it, Ryan. You got this. I'll support you.
You know what? I think what I'll do is I do feel it like it needs addressed because it's not the first time that it's happened that this particular person is like kind of they're asking people for money to support their channel, which I think is disingenuous when you're shitting on other people. If you want money to support your channel, I think that's fine. Wally does it. Lloyd does it. Like, make that coin. Hey, y'all want to send me money? Sure, send me money. But if I'm using my platform to shit on other Jehovah's Witnesses and tear them apart, and I'm asking for money for that, yet I'm putting myself in a position to say, look, I'm such a level-headed reporter. That doesn't seem level-headed to me, and it seems disingenuous. It doesn't add up to me. Like something is a little bit off with that. So I might just gently probe that portion of it, maybe. Okay.
You do you, girlfriend.
Oh, I always do.
Well,
and there's the Discord.
Yes.
There is the Discord. It is a safe space. I mean, we can talk about anything, but we have all different peoples from all different walks of life, and they are all wanted and respected there. So keep that respect hat on.
Yes. All right. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another episode of Apostate Weekly. Again, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and hit the little notification bell so you know when our show is on the air to stream in live to your computer. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you all next week at the same time in the same place.
Apostate your way.
Listen, obey, and be blessed.
Listen, obey, be blessed. We love you. Bye.
Bye.